Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the SirLinksalot podcast. I'm your host, Artemis, and today's guest is actually no stranger to the show or even close. In fact, he's making his grand return after 2 entire years, and let's just say the guy's been busy. Now, Greg Elfrink is the director of marketing at Empire Flippers, a large marketplace for buying and selling online businesses. Greg has helped sell over 2,400 businesses as of today and has helped turn 90 people into millionaires at the moment of exit. And on top of that, he's also a regular speaker at conferences where he regularly drops knowledge bombs on mergers, acquisitions, and everything in between. So buckle up because Greg is here to talk about the wonderful world of buying and selling digital businesses. And who knows, maybe you'll walk away planning your own millionaire exit. So first of all, Greg, thank you so much for taking the time to chat again with the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to come on to a friend of the company's podcast. So always good.
Amazing. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I just kind of want to touch base with you. Last time we spoke to you, you were traveling around the world, just kind of going and hanging up your hat wherever you feel like it. Are you still kind of living on the road with the digital nomad lifestyle, or have you found a place to kind of settle down and call your home?
Well, I've been a fake digital nomad for a long time because I mostly just live in Vietnam. So, but our buddy Andy, who is our operations director, I think last time we did this podcast, he's now the CEO. So now I'm having him go do the roadshow for me.
Just kind of passing it off to him, like, here, now you do the complicated part.
I wouldn't say it's complicated. It's just like I love it. I love speaking at conferences and stuff, but it does take a lot out of you when you're on the road constantly. We're trying to build up his brand a bit more too, like his own personal brand, which is something I wanted for years, basically. Because I never, like when I first started doing content for Empire Flippers, it was mainly to get rid of the what my founders called the Justin Joe problem, because they're the original founders of EF, and they were doing all the content. But if you look at selling a business, like that is a critical point of weakness, right? Because like they're not going to go with the business if they ever sell it, right? So it was like my problem to fix, and we kind of made it into just like the Greg problem now because Greg's everywhere. So I'm glad that Andy is out there doing stuff too, and we're trying to get more of our people out there doing content too in general, because I always think that's better for a brand.
Right. Well, how is it better for the brand to have people who are faces of the brand who aren't necessarily like the CEOs or the big faces behind it?
Well, it adds a lot more value, right? If you look at it purely from an exit standpoint, I don't know if it's published yet, but I just did a whole rant against personal brands.
It hasn't been published yet, but I'm waiting. I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, look out for that. But yeah, it's a whole monologue. It's like this is something I think about a lot. But from a exits and valuation standpoint, like let's say I run this is going to be completely fantasy because I'm overweight, but let's say I have a fitness course, right? And I have 6-pack abs and I'm doing $100,000 of profit per month. I'm in the course, I'm in all the ads, I'm on the YouTube channel, whatever. If I try to sell that business to say an investor in his 60s with a beer belly, there's going to be some major problems with this, right? Like clearly he doesn't have the 8-pack of abs and he has a beer belly and he's 65, looks nothing like this guy. And that seller, usually when a seller sells, they're exiting the business, right? Not always. Sometimes there's like deal structures where that's not always true, but usually that's true. And so in that case, that business would just not get a very good valuation because of that pretty massive critical point of failure, right? Like these two people are very different. So that's why I'm always a big fan. As you build up your brand, that there's multiple people that are kind of speaking in lockstep with that brand versus just like one person. Because one person equals critical point of failure. Like in our case, with me being an employee, it's not so bad because like if we sold, I'd probably go with it, but it's still like an issue, right? It's still a critical point of weakness. That's why I always get on my pulpit about personal brands. They can be great, but ultimately, if you want the most valuable business, it should be a faceless brand is what your ultimate goal should be.
Gotcha. That makes complete sense. And let's say this person who purchased the personal fitness business even did have a 6-pack and they were like the complete face of the brand that you would imagine. You know, maybe the person who had a personal brand might have like a little bit of a cult following behind it too. So now they're like, well, I don't want to follow this company anymore. I don't want to follow this hypothetical YouTube channel anymore because my boy's not here anymore. So it makes sense from a couple of perspectives for sure.
We've actually experienced that a few times because I have tried to not be the face several times. Like people that work for me, I try to get them on the YouTube channel. And yeah, that happens all the time. So
Is that like pulling teeth, trying to actually get people to show up for content creation?
it is very difficult. Like writing blogs and all that kind of stuff. Like you can get people to do that, obviously, but like having the camera personality plus the knowledge to, and just like being able to, a little bit of the gift of the gab, be a bit entertaining, right?
Right.
It's difficult, and yeah, it's a very hard thing to replicate in my experience.
For sure. And it's not really something that's easy to teach either. I actually kind of want to
Right.
put a pin in this one because I want to kind of pick your brain about the value of faceless channels a little bit more in the future, but I want to dig into what you've been doing in the meantime too. Actually, you know what? Let's go with your history, because you were mentioning that before you were kind of just brought on to be the face of this particular brand and to help remove the personality or the strong personal branding that was associated with it. So before that, you mentioned in the previous podcast that you only had a few options because you grew up in Alaska and there's notoriously not a whole lot going on there. Right now, you're doing the content stuff. But before, you only had a couple of options, which you said was college, the oil field, or the military. Now, you chose the oil field and didn't have a great time. I can't imagine why. Um, I wanted to know if you had chosen, say, college instead of working at that extremely fun oil field, do you feel like you would have been able to follow the path to get to where you are today to be the
No.
director of marketing?
Absolutely not.
Mm.
Well, I did go, so fun fact, I did go to college for, I think, 3 months, technically a semester because I had to pay a semester, but I stopped going to most of my classes after 3 months. Except for Kung Fu and public speaking. Those are the two classes I kept up with. Everything else I dropped. But yeah, very random combo, But like if I had gone to college, like so I'm a writer, I'm a creative person, I write poetry, I write novels and all that kind of stuff for fun. And I've always found marketing really cool from a creative standpoint, entrepreneurship really cool. But all these things, in my view, you don't really need college for. So what I was actually going to college for was process engineering, which was a type of chemical engineering for the oil field that was really popular at the time when I was younger. And I'm terrible with math, so like first class in math, like wow, this is going to be a very uphill battle for me.
Right.
So and then they forced me to take an English class, and I'm a big English nerd. I'm like, man, I already read all this stuff. Like I don't need to pay for this. I already know this.
Right.
But yeah, so I did go to college for a bit, but if I had stuck with college, I don't think I would be where I am today. I'm very much like college. You must do what the teacher is telling you to do. Similar to the military, you do what your sergeant or commanding officer tells you to do, right? Me, I grew up as a punk rocker, with my buddies with the mohawks and leather jackets and stuff. So like me and authority are just like, I
Oh,
would have been
clearly military adjacent. That would have been your second calling.
You're right, right. So I became what my boys in the oil field we lovingly call ourselves oil trash. Because like, hey, like it's something to do. It's a
Right.
way out of not having to do college and not having to do the military. And oil field people in general are really fun. Like I wouldn't say I wouldn't want to do it again, but it wasn't all bad. There was some cool stuff. There's some people that I'm still like what I would consider brothers today. You work with someone for 12, 18 hours a day in a pretty life-threatening situation. Very different people become like kind of like family to you.
For sure. I'm curious to know if there was anything that you took away from your experience at the oil field, because those are two completely different worlds, like content marketing and working at an oil field. Is there anything that you actually learned that you take with you today, or was it just kind of like an experience that you had and you're glad that you had it, but this is a whole completely different experience and you're glad for that?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot I learned in the oil field. So that applies to what I currently do today, which I think the big one is grit. So just being gritty and determined and not giving up. Cannot tell you how many times pipes have exploded and it's just like, oh my God, like why?
I don't know how much you were getting paid, but it wasn't enough.
Well, I work for Halliburton, so definitely it wasn't enough. Halliburton is known for cheap prices. I always joke that they were the Walmart of the oil fields, always roll back prices for their employees. Um, but yeah, so like I learned like being gritty, being determined, keep pushing through, all very core lessons. But another thing I learned that was I thought very good from a marketing standpoint, especially for me being pretty introverted. Like a lot of people, they look at me like, oh, you're extrovert, you're good with people, all this stuff. Like, wasn't that way before the oil field. I was like a nerdy Dungeons and Dragons dude before the oil field, right?
Right.
That was my thing. And then you work with these salt of the earth people, way different lifestyles and like perceptions of things than me. And like, you got to learn how to be good with people. And in fact, I was never very good in the oil field, but I kept my job despite being so bad at it because I was good for morale, because I made people laugh. And that's actually like pretty valuable when it comes to being on an oil rig where you're away from everyone for sometimes months at a time. I remember my manager, no, he wasn't my manager yet, he was just our lead, but our manager told us like, all right, Greg, Jared, you guys need to go fix the snail pump. And I've been with the company, I think like 3 months. So I should know how to fix this by now, because that was like one of our primary things. Still have no clue, right? And I looked at Jared like, dude, how long is this going to take us? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And Jared looked at me. My nickname in the oil field, by the way, is Smeagol. Everyone has a nickname in the oil field.
Wait, what was it?
Smeagol, like Golem from Lord of the Rings, because like I love literature, so they thought it was a funny name. I had Smeagol, Samurai, and Sunshine, because when I worked in North Dakota, I was always sunburned. But so on the story, I looked at Jared like, how long is this going to take us? And he's like, well, that depends, Smeagol. Could either take us all day or it could take us about 20 minutes. It depends how funny you are. You know, like it's like summarize like
so literally the epitome of a personality hire. Yeah. Yeah. He said, I'm here for the vibes. You guys do your job and I'll keep up the vibes. I think that's actually a really valuable thing. Are you still the chief of the vibes as well as the director of marketing?
I'm a little bit more skilled in this industry than I was in the oil field, but yeah, I tried to be the vibe guy. Like if you look at it in Dungeons and Dragons terms, the class I play, the race I play is the gnome bard, which is like my favorite like fantasy race combos. So I always play the storyteller, the little mischievous gnome. So
I was thinking that you were kind of, yeah, I was thinking that you maybe moseyed into DM category because now you've made yourself a little bit more extroverted and can kind of wrangle the cat a little bit better. So
that's a wise observation. I was always the dungeon master when I played D&D.
I'm just getting the vibe from you. You have like most people who, and if I'm not mistaken, you wrote an actual factual book, maybe several books. I'm not sure. But most people who are really good with that kind of storytelling tend to gravitate towards that kind of role. So it was an educated guess.
Good guess. You're right.
So with your start, you were saying that the people that you were working for were like the Walmart of oil. They were really like cheap with everything. And I think that's interesting that you also started your career in marketing by charging these ridiculously low rates. So you were also really, really cheap to hire.
I was my own Walmart.
Yeah, you were the Walmart of Greg Elfrink content creation, right?
Right.
So you were doing that to create content for people to like build your portfolio, and it worked out for you, obviously. Do you think that method would still like work for people today? I know a lot has changed, but do you think that's like a pretty solid in, or is it just not going to work out for people?
I think it would be very difficult to replicate what I did today in terms of like the service. So this, for your audience, what I was doing, I was writing SEO blog articles, basically. I was charging, I think it was like 50 cents per, not 50 cents per word, so half a cent per word. I was charging half a cent per word for all these different local businesses and SEO agencies and all that kind of stuff. So I think that'd be really hard to replicate today with AI. I mean, you like for a plumbing in Ohio website, you don't need to be Ernest Hemingway to have content that produces results, right? And right. AI is good enough to cover that. Now, with that said, like what I did can still work with other services, right? You just find that gap. Like for me, I knew SEO agencies, what do they need? They need a lot of content and links. What else do I know? Pretty much all the SEO agency owners, if they start another agency, is usually link building, not content, because they hate content, right? So I like, all right, I'm just going to undercharge. I'm going to charge so little, even the Filipinos and Indians cannot like outmatch me, right? Like I'm gonna be like bargain basement. And I had a whole setup to where so one of my clients, he wanted me to write like much longer articles. Usually I was writing like 500 word articles or so. And I would actually charge him much more per word if he wanted me to write a bigger article. I was like, how does this work? Like, wouldn't you want to charge me less because I'm giving you more? Like, no, dude, because I'm a very fast writer. But I know the longer a piece is, the more coherent it needs to be, the more researched it needs to be. So it actually takes way longer to write like 1,000-word, 1,500-word article than like a 500-word article. 500-word article, if you're a writer worth your salt, you only need like 2 or 3 facts and you're good to go. Like a quick Google, you've researched everything you need to know for the article. So you're able to whip them out really, really quick. So my advice for someone starting out would be find a service that you are very quick at, and you should undercharge, like way undercharge in the beginning, maybe even do it for free, and just be ridiculously committed to like doing as much as you can for those people. And then you start building up this massive portfolio, and suddenly you're getting more and more opportunities coming your way, right? So that could be like video editing today. It could be script writing. Some people still do hire writers, right? I think you'd have to go more upmarket these days versus like what I was doing, but there's a lot of opportunity on the internet. You just need to look for those little margins, especially things that people are really annoyed by. Like in my case, was writing, which I happen to like. So I was able to fill that.
Right, that makes sense. And especially with the shorter articles, I can see how people would just say, screw it, we're just going to outsource this task to AI and then do whatever. But you were practically working for free at that point. So, you kind of give yourself an internship. And I feel like that's a pretty solid way to start off. But nowadays I can see why you say that it probably wouldn't make the cut.
Yeah, I mean, the fundamentals work, but you want a different service. Definitely offer something.
For sure. Definitely. So right now I kind of want to pivot to the kind of businesses that you guys handle at Empire Flippers. Mm-hmm. So you stated previously that you reject like 95% of businesses, and you get hundreds submitted every week to the marketplace. I don't know if that figure has increased or decreased since we last chatted a couple of years ago. But let's say hypothetically that I am a marketing agency. So if I want to be listed on the marketplace, what kind of agencies normally would make the cut? Like what kind of traits would my marketing agency have to have? Because I know that some of our listeners right now are at that point where, they have something going and they're looking at the future and trying to map out how they want to make that move. What should they be looking at with that?
Yeah, I mean, marketing agencies, I've always loved marketing agencies when I love marketing, but I think these are great businesses to sell. And a lot of agency owners have no idea that they can even sell them. Like, it's kind of like back in 2016 when I first started, a lot of affiliate site owners didn't know they could sell their site. And I run into that with a lot of agency owners today, which is very surprising to me. But in terms of like profit, like EF itself, we have a very low threshold. Like as long as you're making $2,000 in net profit per month, and like over a 12-month average, we can probably sell your business. Usually your business needs to be about 36 months old, so like 3 years, something like that. Now with agencies, usually you're going to have to be bigger than that minimum threshold in terms of profit, because you need to, like with an agency, the asset that the buyer is buying, it typically is the talent that works for the agency, but also the processes and systems. And so if you're like a little $2,000 a month agency, like, well, that could be one client, right? So you probably don't have a lot going on with the sellable asset. So the three big things for agencies is client acquisition system. Do you have a way to generate clients that is not word of mouth? So every marketing agency owner ironically says something very similar that they would probably hate on a sales call, where like they're talking to the small business owner, like, yeah, I can generate you leads. And the business owner's like, oh, I haven't done marketing in years. It's just all word of mouth. Like I don't need any marketing. And the marketing agency owner is trying to get over that objection. But then when it comes to their own business, like, oh, it's all word of mouth. Like you see the
I've seen it.
So this is very, very common. So having some kind of client acquisition system, ideally that does not involve you. Like it ideally should not be founder led. So typically you won't see that. Like when you start an agency, you're going to be very personal brand focused, which I actually do recommend because it allows you to get revenue faster. But over time, you want to switch that out, switch your face out, maybe with another employee or just completely no face at all, right? Like we just sold a $6.5 million agency, no face, no personal brand, nothing like that. We sold it within 30 days because of the client acquisition system was one of those reasons. So that's number one. Number two is you should have diversified revenue. And what I mean by that is no one client's making up over 40% of your revenue. It's not, I wouldn't say it's common, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's terribly uncommon either for someone to have just like an absolute whale of a client, which is great. But a whale of a client can cause a lot of risk. Like if they leave for whatever reason, right? So that's a big thing. You want to diversify your client base. And then the third thing you really want is retaining. So most agencies are terrible. Their churn is about 3 months before a client quits. But what you really want to aim for is a retainer of at least 18 months on average. If you can do those things, you're in a very good position. Obviously, there's more, but those are some of the big ones.
Gotcha. I don't even have an agency, and I feel like I should be taking notes. That's super interesting. So in general, where do the people who you interact with Empire Flippers normally drop the ball? Like, which of these three things do you think the agencies probably struggle the most with?
All of them. That's why
they're just going through it, just in general.
I often joke that I break an entrepreneur's dream every week so I can help them wake up and actually become rich. Like usually when I make that joke, it's about valuations, because like entrepreneurs way overvalue their business, like, oh, right. I should definitely be getting like a 10x on this business. Has been around for like a year. Like, dude, you're crazy. No, you're not going to get.
Is that kind of, do they normally take that gracefully, or do they argue with you like, Greg, you don't know what you're talking about?
When I was nicer about it, they used to argue with me a lot. Now I've used my gritty bluntness I learned from the oil field. Like, dude, you are delusional. And now they accept it immediately. So that's another gift of the oil field. When I need to, I think it become extremely direct with someone, which I used to never be able to do. But yeah, so I like that I try to help these entrepreneurs. This is why it's so important. Whether you're looking to sell in a year, 2 years, or 3 years, hop on a call with someone like me. It doesn't have to be Empire Flippers. It could be, whoever you like, but someone with like a lot of experience, and cannot be an actual entrepreneur. It cannot be just an entrepreneur who happened to sell their business, because there's way too many caveats and nuances. Talk to a broker who has done a ton of deals. They're going to be able to give you such a more realistic picture of everything. But the key thing is, like, if you're planning on selling in a year, a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make is like, okay, I'll talk to you in a year when I'm ready. But it's too late then. Like, if you have this big valuation goal and you're doing something completely wrong, and you come to me and you want to sell within, like, the selling process in 30 days, that's not enough time to affect your valuation. That's why you should always come in and talk earlier, so you can start doing these kind of things early, because your whole value is based on basically your last trailing 12 months, right? So you want to make that look as good as possible before you go to market. So
gotcha. That makes complete sense. There's this rumor going around, and I don't know the validity of it, so maybe you can help me out with this. People say that the best deals aren't with brokerages when it comes to buying yes. online businesses in particular. Yeah. So is that like a misconception? And if so, where does it come from? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so it is both true and false at the same time. And I'll explain what I mean. So if you look at my space in the M&A world, there's a lot of gurus out there who will say that. And I'm friends with a lot of them. Like, a lot of them, they're speaking the truth. But the thing that people don't understand, so the reason why they say that is why the best deals are off market, is because as a buyer, you're a commodity. So in M&A, everything is kind of in reverse. So like, let's say I'm in a traditional business, I'm trying to sell you a product. I need to convince you. But in M&A, the buyer needs to convince the seller. Really the buyer is the salesman, not the seller. The seller is the darling of the ball. Everyone wants the seller, and all the buyers are just commodities, because at the end of the day, what do they have? They have money and the deal structure. That's it. So buyers, they would prefer to not use a broker. If everything is equal, they would prefer not using a broker, because then they can get a seller who has no other buyers looking at them. And sellers usually have way less experience in the M&A world, so they don't even know how to value themselves. Often they undervalue themselves once they like kind of wake up from the overvaluation part. They go too hard in the other direction. And the buyer can often use what is better M&A skills to do a better deal structure. Like, we had a deal, this buyer offered an earnout, and the earnout looked really, really good on paper. Like, the seller is going to get paid so much more money. And the buyer was using all that greed that he was building in the seller to get him to accept the deal. But what we knew, because we told the seller, don't do this deal, what we knew and what that buyer knew is that the business would not be able to grow realistically to hit that earnout phase. And because of that, the sellers are actually going to get paid way less than what they normally would if they just went with our normal deal, because the buyer was using their experience and the seller's lack of experience to basically do a capital risk mitigation strategy, which is somewhat common with like private equity and stuff, to pay less, but make it seem like he's going to pay more. But he just knows how it plays, and the seller doesn't, because most sellers is their first business they've ever sold, right? They just are starting at a disadvantage. So that whole rumor getting the best deals off market is true for buyers, is false for sellers. Usually the broker is way better move for the seller. And the other, like I had a guy, this is years ago, but he sold a business and I was like helping him a little bit with it. And he's like, hey man, sorry, I decided not to go with you guys, like, because I didn't want to pay the commission. So yeah, no worries, man. Like, what'd you sell it for? And he told me like, dude, like if you had went with us, not only would you have paid us more money than you initially thought, but because our commission would have been larger because we would have sold your business for far more, but your take home in your wallet would have been way more.
Wow. And
like,
when you told him that, did he kind of feel cheated, or was he like,
yes,
oh,
yes, of course.
yeah.
This is a strategy buyers will do to sellers all the time. Like, oh yeah, you don't need to go to a broker. Like, why go pay those commission fees? I'm right here, right?
Yeah. And
They're
then
just
it's like,
are charging more for their fee, right? It's a very common thing. So to answer your question, yes, it is true. You can find better deals off market if you can find the deal. For newbie buyers, I would still always recommend to start with a broker, because actually doing that deal sourcing can be pretty tough. If you've never bought a business, there's a lot of potholes you need to watch out so you don't swerve into. So brokers provide a lot of good value to a newbie buyer as well. And with that said, like, it tells you something that buyers who have bought dozens of businesses still come to our marketplace in addition to their off-market stuff, right? So in the end, what you want is both. It's kind of like multi-channel marketing, right?
Right.
You want to have deal flow coming in from as many places as you can, because like, let's say you overpay for a business with a broker, right? At the end of the day, if you have a good growth plan, what you paid for the business is next to nothing in terms of your equity. Like, we had a guy bought a $180,000 Amazon FBA business with us. 22 months later, he's now listing it for sale with us, and I think we are listing it at like 1.2, 1.3 million or something like that. So
Wow. Not even 2 years later.
right. So like, let's say he overpaid because of the broker commission by 30 grand. Is that a bad deal? I mean, we just made him a millionaire.
Yeah. I mean, the math is mathing. I can definitely see why
Right.
people will have that misconception there. In general, what's the difference that you're seeing nowadays between like any changes in the types of businesses that people are coming to you guys with to buy or sell?
Yeah, so this is why I really want to get more in front of agency owners, because we're seeing kind of it's kind of like an exodus from platform dependent businesses. So you're seeing that with affiliate sites that you traditionally rely on, like Google SEO, right? All the
Right.
chaos happening there. You're seeing it with Amazon FBA, because Amazon's getting much more competitive, and you just don't control the full funnel. So we're seeing a lot more demand growing where you do have what I call a full business funnel control. So direct to consumer e-commerce, marketing agencies. SaaS always been valuable, but though SaaS is running into an issue right now, they're kind of like in the slow moving crisis that the affiliates are feeling, because most SaaS also get a lot of their traffic from SEO, but now they're dealing with the vibe coding revolution, which is like, oh no, this is like one of our biggest moats was like hiring and having
Oh,
developers, right?
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. But yeah, wherever you can control the full funnel, I think that is where most like more savvy buyers are going to. Now on the lower end, you still got plenty of people buying things like a profitable affiliate sites and FBA businesses. What I often quote as like more like profitable side hustles, like in the sub 300K range. So there's still a lot of that kind of deal flow too. But in general, buyers are more hesitant with platform dependent businesses these days.
Gotcha. I can definitely see why there's a lot changing in the landscape that just makes it more difficult for a lot of niches that had a way easier time before. One reason for that is also, AI, like we were chatting about earlier. And last time we were on the podcast, you mentioned that you might have sold some AI sites without realizing it, but you weren't quite sure. Have you noticed in the past few years if there was like a dramatic uptick in sites that are almost like entirely AI that that you've sold?
Well, I don't know on the websites, because I don't believe in any AI content detector tool. I think they're all kind of a grift that forces.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has solved that. Like, I know agencies, their clients force them to now run their all the content they create for the clients through an AI detector, right? But it's all human crafted. And sometimes the AI detector is like, oh, this is 90% AI, when it was literally written by the founder. Like he typed it, right? And like I've had it where I put my poetry in AI detectors, like, yeah, this is AI. Like, what the hell?
What?
So like I think it's all grift on that stuff. Nothing has changed my mind on that part. So I don't know on the affiliate side front.
Okay.
Now on the YouTube channel side, like we started selling a lot more YouTube channels. For sure, we sold things that are using AI as their predominant like content production system.
Right. And you can definitely tell there's no real question whether something is like created in AI with YouTube most of the time because, they have a very certain format to it. For example, we had on Austin Armstrong, who has a
Oh yeah,
company.
I know Austin.
Yeah, he's awesome. And he was telling us about the kind of faceless content videos that a lot of people use using his platform. Sorry, they create using his platform. And I like them personally. I enjoy a lot of those kinds of videos when they come across my YouTube feed or my TikTok feed. But you just like, no, I'm a true crime girly myself. So for me, if you're just giving the information out there, if I'm consuming that content, even if I know it's AI, I'm not particularly like offended by it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is, just a different way of delivering this information. One thing that you mentioned recently in a YouTube video that I watched that you made that really, really captured my fancy. You mentioned that faceless YouTube channels might be a sort of like replacement for niche websites in the modern era nowadays. I want to know, what do you mean by that? And like, why do people actually want to buy these?
Yeah, so YouTube, like this, like the real attractive nature of an affiliate site back in the day, like your traditional niche site, it's a very simple business. And from a newbie buyer coming in buying a niche site, if you don't do anything for like 3 weeks, you're still making money. Like it's pretty hands off. Now you should still be doing stuff because it will eventually fall apart, right?
Naturally.
Unless Google does that for you, which is a thing they do
Right.
these days. But YouTube channels are very similar. Like if you don't post a YouTube video on your channel for 2 weeks, you're probably like, yeah, you're not going to make as much money, but you're still making money from your backlog, usually at least a little bit, right? So it has a bit of that kind of like passivity that niche sites have. It's pretty simple business model, similar to niche site. It's just basically good content, right? And
Right.
understanding a bit about the algorithm, both on discover and search. So like it's very attractive for someone who's both either a newbie buyer looking to like dip their feet into the water, because you can buy a profitable YouTube channel for like $80,000 or less. Like I think the biggest one we sold now is like right under 500 grand. But so you can
Nice.
get into these businesses without like a huge wad of capital, and like there's not a huge opex, like all the complicated stuff. So it's a good place to like battle test, like, should I be an entrepreneur for a bit, right? From a veteran standpoint, they're also very attractive because what is YouTube? Is a traffic channel, right? And so if I have a e-commerce store selling like dog products, and I buy a bunch of faceless YouTube channels about dog products who were, maybe they were my affiliates before. Now I start buying my own affiliates. I'm buying up all this traffic and I'm owning more of the market, which is a vertical integration, basically, right? Where you're
Right.
owning more and more from top to bottom of the entire funnel.
Gotcha. I get that. I'm really curious to see how that evolves in the future, whether people are going to keep buying up the faceless YouTube channels and, people are going to feel more incentivized to make some, or whether it's going to eventually kind of oversaturate it and, people are going to say, well, this is changing the landscape. But I really don't see this kind of stuff going anywhere. But the sentiment around it has definitely shifted. And I want to know if you've noticed any changes with this increase of like a fear of AI in general and what that would mean for like the online businesses that we're chatting about.
Yeah, I mean, AI is coming for everything, right? I
Yeah.
was a few months ago. Or I guess about a year ago, I had lunch with this private equity guy here in Vietnam, and the first thing he asked me is like, "So, Greg, like I know you're like really passionate about marketing. How does it feel that everything you spent so long learning and doing, you're going to get replaced by a robot soon?" It's like pretty awesome, dude. I assume you're buying lunch today, you know?
Right. That's
So
a pretty
pretty great,
hefty
right?
statement. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I think AI is kind of like Photoshop, at least in its current incarnation. Like if I get onto Photoshop, I can make something kind of passable, but I'm terrible with it. You get someone who's good with it, they can make art, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing with AI. Like if you get someone who doesn't understand marketing and they have ChatGPT write a marketing plan, maybe it'll work. It'll probably work better than what they used to do. But
Right.
they don't know how to ask the right questions and set everything up in the right way. They don't know how to use the tool for their specific function that well. So I think there's a lot of overplaying on the fear of AI, like with designers and like ad creative. If you know how to use AI, you can use, and ads, you can create creatives ultra quick. But if I'm a Fortune 500 CEO, I am not sitting in a Discord chat with Midjourney to make my Facebook ad creative, right? Like I'm paying someone to do that for me, right? Like it makes no sense for me to do this. So I think AI is changing a lot and changing a lot of different businesses. For the most part, though, as long as you start incorporating it in a not in a like we need AI constantly, because that would just lead to a lot of projects that fail and you're just doing AI for pointless reasons. But if you actually find ways to use AI, massive leverage, really, really great. I think the business model, as far as digital businesses go, that will be most impacted by AI is actually software. I think that's the biggest crisis I see coming in down the M&A war path with AI. Because like with content, yeah, AI can replace like you and me now with like HeyGen. Like I've done a few HeyGen videos of me as shorts because I didn't have enough time, and they actually did better. So ironically, I guess the dead internet is real now.
Did people clock you as AI Greg?
No. So at least someone commented, but I only did it on shorts because like, they're like 30 seconds, right? So there's not enough time to register.
Wait, this guy didn't blink once. What's going on?
Yeah. No, he blinks. Deepfake Greg blinks. He's more put together than real Greg. I'm always disheveled. But yeah, so I think software is where the big crisis is probably going to come. But with content, like you said, you watch some AI content stuff and you like it, right? Like as long as the content is good, the consumer doesn't typically care. So then it just becomes a game of traffic and make sure the content is good, which is always what the game has been. So it's not that crazy different. But yeah, so I'm not too fearful in a lot of ways with AI, with digital businesses. I mean, people are always going to buy things on the internet. There's always going to be opportunities. So I think right now, I think the more worrying case for someone with AI is not so much for the entrepreneur, but for the employee, because the employee is the one most at risk with the AI that's coming down the pipeline. So I tell people, you need to find a path to get on the side where you're the equity holder in something, because that is the safest place to be. Because if you replace yourself with AI, but you're also the owner of the business, great.
Right.
That's awesome, right? So that's my recommendation for people with AI. Don't be too fearful, but you should create your own business as well in with everything that's going on. Something.
Gotcha. That's pretty solid advice. And personally, I co-sign all of that. I'm totally on board. I think that it's an awesome tool. And I think that even for people who think that it's not awesome, that it's still not going anywhere. So it's best to kind of go with the flow and adapt as much as possible. Do you yourself use AI in any of your workflows? I know that you manage quite a few people right now in your current role. Have you integrated that into any way?
Yeah, so we use AI mostly in our CRM, so in like automations and workflows, stuff like that. We're working on an AI empowered SEO system right now because we don't have enough time to like manually do it like how we used to. So we're like building an end to end one right now with a buddy of mine, and then we're looking to automate some of our newsletter creation. Like I said, we've used it a bit in shorts as well, like YouTube Shorts. But yeah, those are the main things. We also use a lot of AI in our cold email outreach. So with the whole SEO apocalypse, like we got hit a little bit on the traffic front too. It's like, oh, Greg needs a new marketing skill.
Yeah, I mean, with all the content updates and all that Google's been pushing out, the fluctuations have been crazy on all ends.
Oh,
So
it's nuts.
it adds
Yeah.
up.
So I delved pretty deep into a cold email about a year and a half ago, and we've been running a pretty successful campaign now for the last 8 months with that. So, and we use AI for like data enrichment and stuff like that.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So right now, I kind of want to sign off with a little bit more of a existential Greg advice, right?
Oh, great.
So we want a hot take. So you've seen a lot of people earn a lot of money through mergers and acquisitions. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned when it comes to success or money through helping people achieve this kind of success?
So everyone thinks you make the money when you sell your business, but I'm telling you, the people that make the most money are the people who buy the businesses. They make way more, and they're at a much better advantage than you. So, seller, they might sell a business once every few years because again, you need like that 36 months, right? If you're a buyer, guess what you inherit? You inherit that 36 months. I had a buyer, he bought a business from us, he sold it in an hour to another person who's competing for that same business on our marketplace. We hadn't even started transferring the business over to him yet. So like,
Wait, what?
yes. So this is a funny story. I don't recommend anyone to do this, by the way, because it's very risky. So don't do what I'm about to tell you, but it shows you the power of being a business buyer versus the seller. So again, a seller has to have all this history, right? So the seller, it was like a small affiliate site from a few years ago. It was, I think like 100 grand, something like that. And it was heavily, like tons of competition for it. This buyer gets the business. As it's going through our migration process, he asked us like, "Hey, was anyone else interested in this?" We said, "Yeah." It was like actually, quite the competition for it. It's like, could you email all those buyers and say I'll sell it to them for 115 grand right now? Like, I mean, you still have to pay our commission. Like, yeah, of course. Like, okay. So we emailed them, and we had a buyer within like basically the hour to buy this business for 115 grand. So minus our commission, this guy like made, a little bit under 15 grand in profit, right? But if you start a business from scratch, that is impossible to do. There's just no way you can do that, right? But if you buy a business with a history, you inherit all that history. So that's just one example of how powerful buying is. Like I already shared the FBA guy, right? If you start a business from scratch, Amazon FBA, it's possible you can get to like 7-figure revenue within a year for sure if you know what you're doing. But it's a lot easier if you're starting with a business that's already valued at 180K. Because does that do for you? Product market fit's already solved. You already have working ads. The business as is profitable. Now you can focus on scaling what is already working instead of flailing, trying to figure out what will work, right? And what will work sustainably. So a buyer has a lot more advantages to grow their wealth much, much faster. And a buyer, like I said, a seller might sell a business every 3 years. A buyer might be selling several businesses every year once they get going, because a buyer doesn't have, like, a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake, I am the business, right? Versus the buyer, every business is just a product on their shop shelves, because eventually they're going to go sell the business, right? So they want more product, hence businesses. And so every year, as they build up more product, they can start exiting every year, and sometimes multiple times per year. And that's where the real money is made. But you do it by buying, not by building from scratch.
Wow. I said, leave us with a hot take. He said, say less.
Sorry, I'm very long-winded. I apologize.
No, actually, that was awesome. So I don't think that anybody expected to hear, if you want to make money, then you have to buy and not sell. So that was exactly what I was looking for in the most unexpected way. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
And thank you so much. Yeah.
sorry. You made me think of a funny story. I have a
Go for
client.
it.
He's bought millions of dollars worth of businesses from us, and he two things that he said to me that were really funny. One, he was buying Amazon FBA businesses, and he was like, "I love all these FBA entrepreneurs. They're all young, making a ton of money. They're all completely broke because of the reinvestment into e-commerce. So you always get like good deals." But the other thing he told me was like, yeah, if you're hungry, you go to the grocery store. If you want to get wealthy, you go to the business store. You go and buy. Like, that's where you make your money, right? So,
Yeah. And the fact that you have do you have like a lot of regulars? Like, are there
oh yeah,
people who constantly buying? Oh,
business buyers are repeat customers. Like I said, it takes sellers several years before they come back. A buyer, like we had a buyer, I think he bought like 10 businesses from us in a year. So yeah, buyers are the repeat customer for sure in brokering.
and clearly they know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, they tend to have already wounded themselves with a few acquisitions. they
And
have
now that they're seasoned.
right.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that and for all of the knowledge bombs that you've dropped throughout the past 45 minutes. This has been a real treat. For those of you who want to learn more about Greg and his work, I'm going to be dropping some links in the description so that you can learn more about what he does and also what Empire Flippers does. And in the meantime, I'm going to catch you in another couple of years, Greg, so that you can have some more juicy updates for us.
Excellent. I look forward to coming back. Thank you for having me on.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much. And we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, make sure to give us a like, drop a comment, subscribe, so you don't miss out on any future SEO insights. And hey, if you're serious about your rankings, head over to SirLinksalot.co, check out our premium link building services, guides, and free SEO tools. See you next time.